"I ain't got nowhere to go, sir. But I can cook," she whispered to the widowed rancher on Christmas. The wind howled across the open plains like a lonely hymn, rattling the shutter of the old Whitaker ranch house. Inside, a single kerosene lamp flickered, throwing shadows across the wooden floor where Cal Whitaker sat alone, nursing a cup of coffee gone cold. It was his third Christmas without Margaret, and somehow this one felt heavier than the rest. He hadn't planned on visitors. Not out here, 20 miles from town. And certainly not on a night like this. But just after sundown, a soft, tentative knock tapped at his front door, so out of place in the quiet of the prairie that he thought he imagined it. When it came again, he rose slowly, half expecting the wind to have carried a loose branch against the frame. Instead, when he opened the door, he found a young woman, maybe 22, bundled in a threadbare coat, snow in her hair. Her cheeks were red from the cold, and fear shone plainly in her eyes. "I'm real sorry to bother you, sir," she said, her voice shaking as much from nerves as from the cold. "I ain't got nowhere to go," she hesitated, swallowed hard. "But I can cook." Cal blinked, startled. He wasn't used to people showing up with honesty that raw, that bare. Out here, folks kept their business tucked tight. "You better come in," he finally said, stepping aside. She walked in slowly, as if unsure she deserved the warmth. He closed the door behind them, sealing out the storm. "My name's Tessa," she offered, tugging at the frayed sleeve of her coat. "I was headed for Pine Creek to try for work, but the bus broke down. Driver said it won't be fixed till morning. I didn't know where else to go. Lights in this house were the only ones I could see." Cal motioned toward the fire. "Warm yourself. I'll put on more coffee." She nodded gratefully, kneeling near the hearth. Her hands shook as she held them toward the flames. For a while, neither spoke. The clock on the mantel ticked loudly in the heavy quiet. Then Tessa asked softly, "You spending Christmas alone, sir?" Cal hesitated. "Yes, ma'am, I suppose I am." "You got family? Kids? Someone coming by?" she pressed, her voice gentle. He shook his head. "Just me. House gets mighty quiet this time of year." She looked around the spacious but plainly lived-in home, the empty rocking chair, a dusty photograph on the shelf of Cal beside a smiling woman with kind eyes. "That her?" she asked. Cal followed her gaze. "Margaret. My wife." Tessa nodded, as though she understood loss far older than her young years. "I'm sorry." Something about the way she said it, simple, sincere, eased a tight place in Cal's chest he hadn't realized was still clenched. "Well," she said suddenly, clearing her throat as though pushing away her own ghosts, "if I'm gonna be taking up space in your house on Christmas Eve, least I can do is stir up a decent meal." "I wasn't lying, I can cook real well." Cal started to protest, but she stood up quickly. "Please," she added softly. "Let me do something good tonight." There was something desperate and hopeful in her eyes, and Cal felt himself nod. "Kitchen's yours." Within minutes the house filled with the unfamiliar aroma of something warm and savory, herbs, onions, a hint of roasted garlic. Tessa moved with quiet confidence, the way someone does who has learned most things the hard way. Cal found himself watching her with growing curiosity. "You cook like someone raised in a big family," he observed. She gave a small, sad smile. "Wasn't raised by much of anyone. But I cooked in shelters. Restaurants too, when they'd take me. Learned trial by fire, I guess." Cal nodded. He wished he could ask more, but the look in her eyes told him not to. By the time she finished, she'd prepared a simple stew and cornbread, but something about the meal made the house feel alive again, like Margaret was smiling from the walls. They sat down at the old pine table. Cal bowed his head out of long habit, and after a moment, Tessa quietly did the same. When they began eating, Cal felt warmth spread through him that had nothing to do with the stew. "This is the best Christmas meal I've had in years," he said, surprised at the emotion in his own voice. Tessa blinked rapidly, then looked down. "Thank you, sir." They ate in companionable silence, until Cal finally asked the question that had nagged at him since she arrived. "Tessa, where will you go after tomorrow?" She took a long breath. "I don't know. I'll find work somehow. I always do. I just keep moving till something sticks." Cal studied her, the exhaustion, the quiet resilience, the kind heart shining through every word. Something inside him shifted, something he hadn't felt in years, a pull toward hope. "You said you can cook," he began cautiously. She nodded. "Well, this ranch could use help. Someone to keep the place running. Someone with a steady hand." Tessa froze, eyes widening. "You're offering me a job? If you want one. Not charity. Work." She pressed a trembling hand to her mouth. "Sir. Cal, you don't even know me." He offered a small, genuine smile. "I know kindness when it shows up on my doorstep in a snowstorm. And I know Margaret wouldn't want this house to stay empty forever." Tessa's eyes filled with tears she didn't bother to hide. "No one's ever chosen me before." "Well," Cal said softly, "let me be the first." She let out a shaky breath, and then, for the first time that night, she smiled. Not the cautious smile of someone surviving, but the hopeful smile of someone beginning again. "Then I'd be honored to cook for this ranch," she whispered. Outside, the storm eased. Inside, for the first time in years, the Whitaker Ranch felt like Christmas. And in that small, flickering house on the prairie, two people, one grieving, one lost, found something they didn't even know they were searching for. A place where kindness could take root. A place where healing could begin. A place to belong. Because sometimes, all it takes to change a life is opening a door. And letting hope walk in from the cold.